Welcome to the Horror Interview Show. I'm Skullface. Today I'm interviewing award-winning filmmaker David Ryan Keith about directing and co-writing I Am Rage. What inspired I Am Rage?
Um, what inspired I Am Rage? Good question. My last five movies have been horror films. So when I got a chance to do an action film, it felt like a good change of pace for me, something different. So yeah, I was really happy that the project came along. It came along at a good time in my or business career, I guess. It was just after COVID. So it was something I was really happy to get involved with.
What were the main challenges of creating such a movie?
So it's an independent movie. They're normally quite rushed into production. So we only had about a month from a blank piece of paper to writing the script to then shooting the film. But one of the biggest problems was they wanted to shoot in Scotland during winter, which is always a bad idea. But regardless, to make sure we got the film made, we decided to risk shooting in Scotland in winter, and it proved to be one of the most difficult things we've ever done. We had snow, rain, hail. It really caused a lot of problems for us during the production. And somehow we got through it, and hopefully no one doesn't notice when they watch the movie that just to the side of some of the scenes there, it's pure snow. We actually had the crew out raking the snow from some of the scenes in order for us to get it done.
Do you like directing and what do you like about it?
I I'm like 42 years old now. I grew up in the 80s and 90s and watched a lot of what I would consider the best movies. It was the best. It was like the golden era of genre films, like the old action stars, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Van Damme, that kind of things. And so naturally, as a kid, I wanted to make those movies too. So it was like a natural progression, wanting to be a director. And I guess one of the best things about being allowed or being able to direct movies with people pushing you with money behind you is you get to come up with like stupid ideas, and try and realize them on the screen. Or it's like being a kid. The way I make my movies now is different, but in a sense is exactly the same as when I was like 12 years old. So it's like a weird job. I find myself constantly looking around while we're making movies, wondering, what am I doing? This is not normal, because making a movie isn't normal, but it can also be a lot of fun.
Were any scenes difficult to film?
Yes, one of the most difficult scenes to film was we have like a climactic end fight between the main goodie and the baddie, and the stunt coordinator. When he showed us the fight, it lasted for about 5 minutes in real time. So to shoot that uh, in an independent, like they give us 18 days to shoot the movie. So to try to shoot a 5 minute fight scene is quite a challenge with the time pressures you get for this kind of movie. And on the day, we only got 6 hours to do that fight. So the actresses, it was easier for me because I was just directing, but the actresses had to put up with like really cold winds. It was raining. They were fighting in a bog. We had two cameras, and we shot basically for 6 hours until we got told we had to move on to the next scene.
Do you have a favorite moment from the movie?
I think my favorite moment from the movie is when the end credits come on. No, I'm joking. It was a very hard movie to make. It was very stressful, and the weather really, it's hard in itself to make a film in 18 days. Never mind like an action movie with lots of martial arts fights. Um, so yeah, my favorite moment. Yeah, it's a tough one. I look back on the film now with a smile, but at the time I probably don't have any favorite moments. It was just a real slog to film. It was a very stressful shoot, and to be honest, I'm just glad it's all it's all over.
What are some ways production companies keep actors safe when filming violent scenes?
So in the case of I Am Rage, we were lucky enough to have money to hire a professional stunt coordinator. We flew over from Los Angeles, and for the first time in this is my sixth movie, they actually had enough money to put 6 days aside before we shot the film, which is kind of unheard of in my experience of independent movies. So he worked with the actors for the initial 6 days on safety, coordinating the fights, and then throughout the whole picture, they basically trained with a stunt coordinator like in any free time they had over the 18 days. So there was a huge I don't know what the word is, like we were all constantly aware of safety, and the stunt coordinator, luckily for us, was very professional, and we had all the pads, the crash mats, and it was always our first consideration before shooting, because we had to shoot this movie so fast it could have easily turned into, we could have really injured the actresses or the extras, which would have shut down the movie. So it was a big thing.
Are there advantages to writing a film with another writer, and if so, what are they?
No, there is no advantage. A lot of the time, this is only my experience, but there can only be really one vision for a movie, and especially for the director, because what's in my head is not necessarily what's in the writer's head or the producer's head. So I co-wrote the script out of necessity, just to make sure the film was more aligned with the kind of films I want to do. And even then, it's a struggle, because when you can imagine you're co-writing with someone, it can be yin and yang. So you can imagine when it comes down to shooting, there can be arguments, and there was arguments. There was arguments about many scenes, just because people saw it differently to the way I saw it in my own head. And ultimately, I'm the one who is directing the film, placing the camera. So it lives or dies by me. If the film fails, I'm the one they come after. So yeah, I don't recommend that to anyone.
I noticed that you've won awards with the Redwood Massacre. Why do you think it won multiple awards?
That's a good question. I don't know, if I'm honest. I think we we made the Redwood Massacre like back in 2013. It was I think it was only our second movie, and we decided to specifically do a slasher movie because we were aware that obviously the slasher genre has a big fan base. So rather than make an independent film and try and find the audience, we were presenting a film to an already established audience. And we decided to do all practical effects. And it was really down to us not having enough money. But over the years, we realized that the horror fans appreciate the effort put into practical effects. And if I remember, quite a lot of the awards we got was for the practical effects. And the way we did it was like completely ridiculous, like old school, like smoke and mirrors to achieve the gore effect. Gore effects. If people saw how we actually did it, they would laugh now. But I think that's probably one of the main reasons the film won some awards.
Did you expect that film to win awards?
No, I didn't. The whole idea for Redwood Massacre, it was like a kind of shrewd plan for us to try and get into the industry. The problem is obviously it's very hard to find funding and get people to back your movies. And the old saying is they won't back you because you haven't done a feature film. You've only done short films. But then it's like catch 22. Well, how can you get your first feature film done if they're only going to give you money if you've already done one? So our idea was to fund it ourselves, try and get distribution, make someone else money, and then the doors slowly open to further investment. But then, of course, you're only as good as your last film. So, you know, your movies have to keep making money for people to keep investing.
Would you say that winning awards helped your career, and, if so, how?
No, this is only my experience, but I mean, we've been in some of the big film festivals, won awards, and they don't really people that it's a hard one to explain, but when you want to set up a movie, it's all about how much your last film did, or they're not really interested in the awards or the film festivals. And if I'm serious, they don't really bring anything to your film. You're looking when you put an independent movie out, you're trying to find the broadest audience you can, and most of the people that you want to watch the film are not really they're not really caring about awards or film festivals, or aren't even going to take the time to delve that deep into the background of your film. It's one of those things, you know, you see the poster, you watch the trailer, and then you take the risk, play the movie.
How did you get into creating screen productions?
I worked for a small film company in Scotland for 10 years, and it was kind of they were touching commercial films, different corporate video, and it was kind of watching other people do their own movies, or sometimes do them badly, that we thought it would be. And I was turning about 30 years old, and it was really my wife said, if you're wanting to make movies, you've got to take the risk, start up your own company, and try and make your own films rather than work for people making their movies. So that was the kind of thinking behind starting up our company, Clear Focus Movies, and that's what kind of propelled us into making I Am Rage, our sixth film, and now moving on to our seventh film.
Who are your favorite horror writers and directors?
Well, because I grew up in the 80s, I when I think back, I don't actually watch that many horror movies, believe it or not, even though I've made 5 horror movies. But I still watch Sam Raimi films. I love the Evil Dead movies. I love John Carpenter movies, more his commercial films like They Live and Big Trouble in Little China and Hellraiser. It was really all the famous genre films from like the late 80s, 90s that I'll find myself going back and watching again, because for me personally, I still think they stand above the newer films coming out today.
Where can people watch I Am Rage?
So I Am Rage is out on the 1st of August, and you can catch it on digital and DVD. I think it's I don't have the list, but it's on all the usual platforms like Amazon and Vudu, iTunes, that kind of thing. So yeah, look out for it.
Where can people follow you?
People can follow me on YouTube. We've got a channel called Clear Focus Movies. So if they like stuff about making movies, making an independent film, or more recently, I've started kind of interviewing like directors from the 80s. Like I interviewed the guy that directed not Bloodsport, Kickboxer. So it's like a mixed bag for people that enjoy the behind the scene of low budget to, I guess, Hollywood budget films.
I would like to thank David for the interview. People watching can like, comment, share, subscribe and whatever else people do to videos if you're watching in the future.